Hey everyone, it's Morgan Yates, and today I am so excited for this video because it is kicking off a post-grad advice series that I've been wanting to do for so long. If you guys keep up with my vlogs, then you know that this series has been a long time coming and I've been wanting to do it for so long, and it is finally here. It's such a good day. I'm really excited for this because we're going to be covering a lot of like real life topics. The next episode after this video is actually going to be all around like friendship advice and how to make friends post-grad. And in this video, we're just talking all about finances, everything from credit cards, saving for retirement, how to create a budget, how to like just maximize what you can do with your money, and hopefully just everything in between. If there's anything I didn't cover in this video that you guys have questions about, feel free to comment below and I'll speak on it if I can, as well as just like, I really want for this series to be sort of like a catalyst for you guys creating a community with each other. So many of you are the same age and living in the same places and going through the same things as each other. So in the comments, I hope that that can be just sort of a dialogue. I don't want this to just be like, I'm the resource to you guys. By no means do I think I'm an expert. Let me just say, hopping in with some quick, terrible quality voiceover just to say that YouTube is my full-time job if you're new. So that makes me self-employed, so I'll be speaking on things like taxes and retirement briefly from my perspective. However, since I know most people watching are going to go on to work at companies, I did consult my best friend Caroline, who has a traditional job, so do not worry, a lot of the advice in this video is going to apply to you if you're in that position. Let's just go ahead and jump in. I asked on Instagram what topics you guys wanted me to cover, and pretty much all of the finance related questions were specifically about how to create a budget. That's what we're going to talk about here first. Before you can even create a budget, you need to first examine your spending so that you can make an informed budget that you can actually stick to, as well as it's just kind of crazy and eye-opening to see how much you spend on some things. So I think this is something everyone should do. I'm going to talk about two ways to do this. The first one is what I did first, probably a year ago or so. It's to just go on Google Sheets. They have pre-made, like filled out templates for both a monthly and annual budget. I think you can do both. I did both at the time. But the monthly one is great if you're someone who kind of can like track with all the math of everything and wants to see like a big, very detailed picture of like every single category of spending you can think of, the percent growth of your savings every month, and like just get a real feel for like every detail of everything. This budget format was also a great resource for me because it made me think about categories of spending that I didn't even really think of. So groceries, why wasn't that in my mind? You know, I eat. You can customize the categories on there as well and like remove ones that don't apply to you. Like if you don't have a pet, then like cut that. But if you're like, Maureen, this one's terrible. If you came to this video being like, I don't even know where to start, I don't like math, I don't get it, I don't want it, keep me away from the numbers, hello Nat, that just flew by, I don't know if you can see that. If that's you, I recommend downloading an app that is going to sort of do a lot of this sorting for you, which brings me to today's video is actually sponsored by the Clio app, which I've been wanting to partner with because I think they have a great service. Their target users, actually people who are entering like their first jobs and like kicking off their careers and just don't really know where to start with money. So it's very millennial targeted, even just in terms of how it speaks to you. So how it works is you can link your credit cards, your bank account, your PayPal even, and it just tracks all of your spending in one place. On like that Google Sheets budget, I was having to go through and like see how much I was spending on everything, which definitely takes a lot more time. So on the app, it compiles all of your info, can track your spending patterns. Also, I know anytime you're linking like a bank account or a card or anything like that, there's a big question of safety. I'm also going to have linked below a page to their security information. I guess pretty sure they use the same like encryption as banks do. And what makes Clio cool is that it's like they set out to make it fun. So it's actually an interactive conversation is the format of the app, where you can ask her like, how much did I spend on Uber? And she will tell you. On Clio, you can map out a budget there so you can see how on track you are. She can notify you when you're going over and it's the 5th day of the month. You can list out your bills and she'll remind you, and you choose if you want it to be on hype mode or roast mode. If you're someone who wants some encouragement, or if you literally want the app to like roast you. It's very targeted at like our age, the standard social media user, in terms of just like the stuff it says. It's very funny, trying to take the stress out of finances, and I think it effectively accomplishes that. There's also a cool autosave feature, so it can analyze your spending and your income for the month, and it can actually suggest for you an amount that you can afford to transfer to savings for that month, and it'll ask you if you want to transfer that there. So it takes like the stress and the thought out of like trying to figure out savings, and I think it's a great resource if, again, you're someone who is overwhelmed by the thought of all of this, or if you want something that's like a quick, easy check-in, because realistically, no one whips out a spreadsheet and looks at that every day. That's just not how life is. Budgets don't get followed to like the exact penny, and that's okay. The point is just to like have a framework to be thinking about it so that you're not just out here like throwing money at everything and, you know, living outside of your means. Because we're gonna talk about debt in a second. I recommend just taking it to an app where things are very streamlined and, you know, you can have fun with it. So yeah, thanks to Clio for sponsoring this video. I'm gonna have it linked below if you guys want to check it out. Don't be someone who lives in denial, have a budget, okay? This also plays into this, kind of how I talked about like moving a certain amount of savings into another account. I'm gonna talk about just having like multiple like bank accounts within the same bank, and sort of some benefits that can come from that, because I think organizing money and like just all of that can be something that's a lot to think about as well. So I have 2 credit cards and then I bank at one bank, but I have 3 accounts within that bank. I have a checking account, which is linked to my debit card. I don't normally keep much money there just because I actually don't even ever carry my debit card with me. I wouldn't keep all your money in your checking account because debit card protections are not as good as credit card protections, I'm pretty sure. So I actually keep very little there. I have a money market account, and then I also have a share account. So I have 3 accounts listed under my bank. Convenient for when I log in, I see them all right there, see all the amounts, whatever. And they all have different interest rates as well. So the one with the highest interest rate is my money market account. So something that all of you employed through a company people don't have to think about is like manually on your own deducting and setting aside the amount of your paycheck that you expect to pay in taxes. That's like already done for you. Must be nice. I've been paying taxes for a few years now, and I kind of know the percentage to expect of what I'm going to end up paying after all of my business expenses are deducted, like then the percentage of my income that I'm going to be paying. So every time I get a paycheck, I take that percentage of that like deposit and I move it into my money market account. So my money market account is where all my money lives for forever, an entire year, that is then going to be paid in taxes later. So if you are ever self-employed, make sure that's something you're doing. Something else I do with that money market account, just in terms of personal savings. So I like to think of my share account, which is where the rest of my money is. I think of that as well as savings, although of course my spending gets paid for with that, but we don't touch most of what's in that account. However, every 10 days, I don't know why, this is just what I implemented at the beginning of 2019 when I was thinking about wanting to start like saving to buy a house. And every 10 days, I move a certain amount of money from my share account into my money market account, which is the tax account. In my mind, that account doesn't exist. It's not there. We don't touch her. We don't think about her. We don't even look at it. Well, we do to make sure no one robbed us or anything. But so every 10 days, pretty hefty amount of money gets moved to that money market account. So I'm tracking how much I have moved to that money market account, so I know how much is actually in that account for a house down payment one day. But the money that gets moved there, it does not get moved back. So I will strongly recommend that whatever your situation is, that you have some amount, even if it's small, that is you just consider to be untouchable savings, that every month you take that and you move it into some sort of other account. Or just even if you have one account, track a certain amount every month that adds on that you like will not touch. Another way you can benefit from having multiple accounts is maybe at the first of every month, your budget starts over and maybe you do move that amount from like your share account up to your checking account, if that's like what you're spending from. That way you can sort of like see that deplete over time. And you know, those are just a few ideas. Maybe if you have a certain amount of money every month that you move to a different account that's like an emergency fund, or like if something in your car breaks or whatever, having an emergency fund is always a great idea in my opinion. So yeah, those are just some ideas for how having multiple bank accounts could work to your advantage and how you could sort of strategically use those to organize your funds. I didn't get tons of questions on this, so I'm not going to spend too much time here, but a few points on retirement. Again, I am self-employed, so I don't have anyone setting up my 401k. I don't have anyone matching what I'm putting into it. I have a Roth IRA through the company Vanguard, well-known, long-lasting company. And this is like the 3rd or 4th year I've been saving for retirement. Prior to this year, an individual could put in up to $5,500 a year. This year it raised up to $6,000. And I recommend, if you can, that you do the full amount every single year, because over time, like, this is what's crazy about saving for retirement. I saw a graphic one time that was about if you started saving for retirement at age 22 versus 32, the difference in how much you have at retirement, because it's like building an interest and everything over your entire life, the lifetime difference ends up being like hundreds of thousands of dollars just based off of like a 10-year different entry level point, where obviously there's a lot of money you would have been paying into that over that 10 years, but with the interest, it's just like, it's huge, which works great to the advantage of people who start early. So I really recommend starting saving for retirement as early as you can, even if it's not a crazy amount. Like, do everything you can, start early. So for my Roth IRA, how I set up my payments is I do a quarterly payment. Don't read too much into it. Like, I've watched my account go up and down so many times, because also while you're younger, you have more of like a high risk portfolio, because that can make you a lot more money. But you set your retirement year, and then as you're getting closer to that, like over time, things start shifting into like lower risk. That way your earnings are kind of like evened out. But my return rate right now, I want to say, is like 8%. So I've made thousands of dollars from it sitting there, and it's only been like 3 or 4 years. So imagine a life. Another note about Roth IRAs is when you withdraw it at retirement, you don't pay taxes on the earnings, which is great. For the 95% of you who are employed at a company, if you're in the position to sort of be like comparing between different job offers, this is something Caroline pointed out, is that you really do want to take into account your company's retirement program, meaning for their 401k, do they match up to a certain amount, especially starting out at entry-level salaries where you may not be making a ton. Have someone who's matching a higher percentage versus some companies who don't match anything, you know, that ends up being more income essentially. And if your employer is matching what you contribute, then you must be paying in the maximum you are allowed to pay in that they will match, because again, it's just free money. If there's any way that you can do the max, make it happen. You know, it's worth not going out to dinner or not whatever. I was talking to Caroline, she was saying the same thing about always paying the max. Then I just want to quickly go through some additional money tips. First one is something Caroline brought up on the phone when I was asking her sort of what she wished she had known or what she would tell people who are entering the post-grad world about finances. She said that when you're out there looking for your first apartment and sort of trying to figure out what you can afford and like calculating and breaking down like your income versus your expenses that you expect, to make sure you are actually thinking of not just the like baseline rent for the place that you are applying to that you like have decided you can afford, but to also think about all the expenses on top of that that may not be like direct expenses. Like utilities are going to be added to that monthly. So you might think, oh, I can afford X amount of dollars. All right, well then if that's like the max of what I can afford for my housing, I have to deduct basically what I expect to pay in Wi-Fi, in parking if your apartment complex charges extra for that, for water, power, gas, all of those things. If you're not thinking about all of that and you're only thinking about like the baseline dollar amount for like rent, then what you end up paying monthly can actually be like hundreds of dollars off. Make sure that you are really getting the whole picture there, because Caroline was saying that she actually pays like $125 more a month than what she originally, like when she signed there, expected that she would be paying a month, because there were costs that she had forgot about. Also, if you're just graduating and maybe in college you had your parents help you out with some expenses like your phone bill or your Netflix account or just like random things like that, your car insurance if your parents were paying for that. Make sure as well when you're getting your job and you're sort of breaking down your rent and like figuring out what you can afford with like everything related to the next chapter of your life, that you're also breaking down what new expenses you might be having if you're someone whose parents did help you out when you were in college. Another note about credit cards, I feel like this is common sense, but really it just the biggest takeaway from this whole video is that you have to live within your means. Make sure you are paying off your credit card every single month, postmating all the time and going out to dinner with your friends and like whatever, all these things that make you have this like fun life are not worth digging yourself into credit card debt that you cannot pay off. Interest rates, crazy guys. I know there are obviously situations where people have no choice but to go into debt. I am talking here about these optional little fun, necessary experiences or social events or whatever that you like think you need to go to when it's just like something for fun that you can't afford. Like, know what you can afford and do not walk yourself down a path that you can't afford. Also with credit cards, when you get to a point where you have a credit score where you can apply for maybe a better card than you started out with, I recommend applying for a card that has perks that line up with like your lifestyle. For me, big Delta credit card gal. I'll see what the current offer is, because I know they have some like referral things sometimes where you get like extra miles. I don't know. If I find one of those, I'll have it linked below. I get miles for everything I spend. Because I have that credit card, I can check bags for free. I get free like preferred seating upgrades or something like that. Anyways, find a card that works for you. Also, I strongly recommend if you are moving cities, that is the prime time to get a new credit card. Most big cards with lots of perks have additional perks with it if you spend a certain amount of money within the first like 2 to 3 months. So like with the Delta card, I know I got like 75,000 extra miles if I spent like $3,000 within the first 2 or 3 months or something like that. And since I was moving across the country with no furniture and I bought everything I own, then you better believe I spent that in the first 2 or 3 months. And I got all these miles just because I timed that well with me moving. So if you're moving and you're about to be dishing out a lot of money, or maybe you're planning a wedding, think about those things in life that you know you're gonna be spending a lot of money on. If you've been thinking about getting a new credit card, that could be a great time to do it. And then lastly here, while this is not super numbers practical focused, I think it's very important to reframe how you think about spending and what you prioritize, and how I saw this on Instagram recently, how differently we can think about spending the same amount of money based on what it's for. So maybe we say like, oh, this $100 a month gym membership's too pricey, but you know, I go out to Nordstrom and I see a dress and I can justify it on this dress that I'm gonna wear twice a month versus going to the gym every day. Or maybe you see spending $100 on this self-improvement seminar or like skills class or whatever that I'm really interested in and would grow me as a person. That's too expensive, but then I can spend that same amount on a concert ticket for like a few hours and like that's normal. One of my entrepreneurship professors even gave an example one time in college about what one like $4 coffee or latte or whatever per week over a lifetime equates to, and it's like $10,000 or something. Like, it's crazy just off one drink a week, which I do. I get coffee once a week. Here she is, she was more than $4. It's a sad thought how much more money I would have if I didn't buy coffee. The biggest thing I'll say here is, you know, live life, but know when it's like smart and reasonable to treat yourself, and know when it's more worth it to treat yourself to a financially golden future. Really self-reflect on how you feel about spending the same amount of money on different things and sort of see what changes you might want to make there. And lastly, along those lines, where you can, think of alternatives when it comes to spending. So Caroline was saying, especially in the working world, so many like meetings or things like that are going to get coffee, going to get lunch, but everyone don't got money for that, especially on an entry-level salary. So she was saying how a friend was telling her how they've switched from scheduling like these coffee meetings and whatever to like where you can, deciding to go on a walk with that person, and that way you're not buying something and you're walking and you're getting outdoors and you're gonna like feel good and whatever, and it's free. Reframe what it means to hang out with a friend. It doesn't have to be going and spending money and getting a drink outside somewhere in the summer. It could be like you're packing for a trip and they come over and like help you pick your outfits. Maybe you have a fun party or event coming up and you want to have like a new dress for it. Rather than going out and buying a new expensive outfit, you can go to a thrift shop and find something that's going to be really cheap and still going to have that new feel for you. So yeah, be smart, guys. That's really all I have to say here. I hope that in some way this was helpful. If you guys have other tips or if you had any takeaways from this, I would love if you would let me know. Nothing life-changing, but hopefully like gave you a couple things to think about. And next up in the series, we're doing an episode all about friendship advice. So how to make friends in the adult world, tips for just like confidence in yourself, and then how to keep up with your friends from college. So that'll be coming up, I believe, in 2 weeks. I'm thinking for the series, we're gonna do like every other week so that we can keep normal content in here as well. But yeah, let me know what other topics you guys want me to cover, and I will see you in my next video.